Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Ryan Harper Podcast, and today we have the fabulous Fanny Dunagan, LinkedIn queen of sorts. Anyway, what's interesting is, turn the music off, buddy. Thank you, sir. Doing research on you, me and you are obviously not the same, but we have similar careers at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So what is it that you do that I can go, ooh, that's me too?
Well, I kind of like to think of it as I have two different hats. So on one hand, I own my own company, Pathlinks, where I helped kind of experienced professionals with their LinkedIn branding and personal branding. And then the other hat I have is I help corporations and small, medium-sized companies with their employer branding. So that's kind of the two sides of me right now.
Right.
And a lot of it is off LinkedIn. A lot of it is helping them find their unique brand. I think a lot of people want to get out there and they kind of post and kind of haphazardly, but I really think we need to start with like what's your value, what's your brand.
Well, and what's interesting about that, about cultivating your brand per se, is doing research on you. My buddy Tyler, just truth be told, Tyler's the one that did it because he's a much better researcher. But he was just pointing out that you and we both do the events, we both do the social branding, we both do that. But he also pointed out very, very quickly that it's obvious that you've cultivated a specific brand, a specific message. Mm-hmm. Whereas like, if you look at me, it's a shotgun pattern of just randomness, you know?
No, I think, what I've realized along this journey is that at the beginning, you just post and you almost have to hear your own voice and hear what comes out of your mouth. And over time, I found that I kind of found myself through my own content, if that makes sense. I know that sounds kind of woo-woo and kind of weird, but I really think that when we start talking, when we start posting, the things that end up being most important, we almost hear the truth coming out of our voice. And that I find has been like kind of like a self-discovery journey for myself. And I found out what I really want to talk about and what were other things that I thought, that didn't ring true once I said it out loud, or that didn't felt important once I said it out loud.
And when you say what you really want to talk about, like, were you just posting to get attention? Were you just posting because, hey, I'm eating a burger, here's a burger?
No.
And then it's like, oh, now I'm posting about world peace.
So I first started doing LinkedIn videos because we were organizing job fairs for the local communities.
In Grapevine?
Yes. So we partnered with the Grapevine Chamber of Commerce, Grapevine Outreach Center, and put together, annually job fairs that attracted like tons of employers, hundreds of job seekers. And so we realized over time that in order to get more people to attend, we had to get on video. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of pulled up the camera one day and did it and posted my first video, and that was to promote a job fair.
So the reason, going back to prefacing all the similarities, so the latest big event that I used to throw was at the Grapevine Palace Theater.
Oh my goodness.
On Main Street.
Yes.
And
look at that parallel.
Parallel is the best word to use, not just like similarities, parallels. So that event was it used to be monthly, then it came to quarterly, but Palace Theater, and again, how do you promote it? Well, social media and video. Yeah. And I had the same realization of just jumping on Facebook and, hey, everybody, you should come.
Right. Yes.
So, but the fact that you do the social media, you do the video branding, the content, the consulting and events, and you worked in events in Grapevine.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you see where it's
that's cool. Yes.
Okay.
Our world collided.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is because when I invited you on is mainly because it's like, I know you're interesting. I've had a couple conversations. I don't know you that well, but I know you well enough that you're active on LinkedIn and you know more of that space than I did. I had no idea that your job was the same stuff I do, which is awesome.
Yeah. And, it's weird because you were saying, how did I get into it? But stemming from these job fairs was these events would be these big things. I don't know if you ever feel that way. It's almost like a event hangover afterwards, meaning like there's this huge buildup, you have the event, and then like for the week after, everything just seemed really quiet and very like, oh, this buildup of excitement, and then like, oh, and then the bell curve came down. And for me, I felt like I wanted deeper connections with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started doing this whole video series called #JobSearchStories.
Oh, nice.
And that's when I really got into video and like interviewing career resources, career coaches, resume writers, recruiters, employers, all of them on a video series. And so I ended up creating like tons of videos just interviewing them because I wanted to have a better connection with people. And while I'm interviewing them, then they offered advice to my job seeker audience. So then it became this video series that I learned a lot from. And I think that's where I kind of feel like I found my voice and practiced talking almost on video.
It's kind of like this thing. Like, it's not, to me, we're like, oh, an interview. I'm like, it's not an interview because I just want to have a good conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But it's like pulling those nuggets from them that I felt like could be useful for that audience that I had at the time.
Well, what I find fascinating about this potential conversation, I say potential because who knows, is I could learn just as much as from you as you could possibly learn from me as well.
For sure.
So it's like, let's just sponge it up.
For sure. You know? I think every interaction, there's something for the two person. Yeah. Really?
I think it depends on the ego of the people in the conversation. Because some people, it's like a certain person I know named TJ Cozen. Literally every code, and I'm saying that because I love the dude. He's going to be on probably tomorrow or whatever. And every conversation is about him. Love you, TJ. But it's a joke, but it's kind of true.
Got it.
right, Tommy?
How dare you?
Exactly.
I love these sound effects.
Yeah. So as far as like, you said you wear two hats, but it sounds like you actually have three hats. Because if you're doing like the event coordination or event management, or even just if you want to say it's the promotion of the events, and then you're doing the social media branding / cultivating an image, well, you also do the talent acquisition side.
Yeah.
And I could see how those commingle, but how do you interface those? My language skills are bad, but how do you interlace those, but also how do you keep them separate? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, delicately. I think it's a work in progress because obviously I think my first priority right now is to serve one of my corporate clients, right, and help them with their talent acquisition, recruitment, and employer branding. And that part of it, I just love. Like I found an organization, and they used to be former people that I worked with, like life before kids. So I feel like I have these different stages of life. We can go into that as well. But like life before kids, I used to be a technology consultant, SAP consultant. And so everything came back around these days. So now I'm helping a lot of those colleagues that used to have under a new company name, recruit and do the employer branding. So I found that I had to be more kind of selective with the personal side, like with the individual coaching side. So then I'm only kind of inviting people that are committed, right? Because some people do postings and they'll kind of do it, just for a while, or they'll get really excited, but then they'll taper off. And I just want to work with people that are truly committed and want to like build their brand month after month, year after year. And so I think I got to a point where I can say I only want to work with the committed people, and that's how I balance the two, right? So the corporate side, and then on the individual side, just really being more selective as to who is committed and who wants a long-term relationship with me.
And I would say even not just being committed, but actually enjoy it. Because like the influencer, video, social media, whatever, just putting yourself out there, yes, it's a lot of work, but if you don't enjoy it, eventually it's going to be a drain and you're going to hate it, and it's going to show, and it's going to bleed through your efforts.
And don't you think it's like a long game, right?
Absolutely.
You got to love it, because it's like what you're doing, right? Day to day, you got to be doing it. You got to be putting it out.
Yeah. And what I find fascinating about this world of the influence world is you never know who's watching, and you never know who you're talking to, and you never know what that relationship will lead to another one and another one. Yeah. And what I've always told people, especially the people that I'm potentially working with now, is if you start doing it, if you have expectations, you're doomed to failure. Yeah. You can have goals. Yeah. But if you're like, I'm going to do this video and 1,000 millions people are going to watch. Yeah. That ain't going to happen. Yeah. Like, I would be happy if 5 people watched. And then the next goal would be 7 people. And then maybe 10. And then after 10, it's probably going to go back down to 7. But, you have to enjoy the process. And I know that's a very, like, rah-rah thing to say, but it's so true.
It is. And also because a lot of times, even though I've been doing it for a while, like, things that I think will do really well, right? Sometimes, for whatever reasons, they don't. And sometimes those things that I just put very little effort in, they do really well. Okay. So you can have the best intentions.
So I did.
You just never know.
Have you ever heard of The Onion?
Yeah.
The publication?
Yes.
About a year and a half ago, I and my friend Casey Della, we interviewed the founding editor of The Onion.
Oh, wow.
It was one of my favorite conversations. Had so many nuggets, so much knowledge. Yeah. And the dude should be super famous, but he focused on pushing a brand instead of his personal. Yeah. So you still have that accessibility. Yeah. Fascinating conversation. And I think even Tommy loved the conversation. Was that one of your favorites as well? he's not doing it. But anyway, my point to that was I'm in awe of that interview, and no one watched it. And it just and I watch it, and the people that did watch it loved it. Yeah. But it just didn't have legs. Yeah. On the other side, I used to be a cheerleader, and I randomly went to a cheer gym like 6 months ago.
You used to be a cheerleader?
Yes. We'll stop.
I want to see some moves.
No. But, there's a video of it. And like 6 months ago, I just went to a gym, and I just randomly did a Facebook Live. Yeah. And that had like 10 times as much viewership. Yeah. And again, it's like both are real, but you just never know what's going to hit. Yeah.
And I think when you see enough of that, and when you've experienced enough of that, then you're like, you know what? It is what it is. Whoever needed to see that will see it, and whoever didn't won't.
So when you're working with like the brands and corporate side of things, because I know how to talk to an individual about this. Yeah. I can show them the path, I can show them the efforts, and I can also show them rewards. Yeah. But when you're talking to like a brand or a company, for them it's just ROI, right? Yes. Like how do you translate this? Hey, here's this thing that may or may not happen, but you just got to trust the process that your brand will increase, but there's no definitive dollar sign attached to it. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you convey that conversation? Well,
I mean, obviously, number one, there's the metrics, right? You can still show them the LinkedIn metrics, the likes, views, engagement, all that kind of stuff, right? But number two is also like how many people became company followers, right? As a result of content, right? As a result of a consistent content plan. Number three for us was, where are the talent hearing about our open roles and our open jobs, right? And if they're starting to say things like, I heard it from LinkedIn, or, I saw a post. So to me, that's a metric as well, because that means the word is getting out, right? So we always track like source of hire as well, right? So, where'd they hear us from, where'd they get the information from, and so forth. So I lead with those three, and there's other stuff, but like, I think those three are the immediate ROI and the measurements. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But one thing, because I know, well, not I know, but metrics, follower accounts, likes, viewership, that doesn't equate to like new business. That doesn't equate to dollars in. I understand that you can survey people and you can survey new clients, you can survey new applicants, but even then it's almost like it's out there in the ether versus because they may have had this wall of influence on them, and then they picked up a random business card and like, oh, okay, now I'll do this thing.
Right.
So how is there a way to convey that, or is it just in your presentation you're like, no, this is, because it makes complete sense to me, and everybody I ever usually talk to, it makes sense to them, but again, it's to me, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, but when talking to like a corporate type entity, right, there might be a barrier of language.
I think, well, it depends on whether you're talking about sales or brand, right?
Right.
Sales is just, you see something, you buy it, and then, you're done, right? You can have that easy conversion. But a lot of times the folks that I serve, it's B2B, right? So it's services that are not like, $100 pair of shoes or something, and then suddenly you see an increase in sales. It's services that they're selling for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, a lot bigger amounts. And those take time, right? Like I saw a statistic recently, or not even recently, like that it takes somebody 10 times of seeing a piece of content before they even make a purchasing decision, right? So it's like these pair of shoes that keep on popping up on my Instagram feed, right? Yeah. By the 10th time, I'm like, stop. Okay, I'll buy you.
It's like, now you're going to buy it.
Yeah. So there is that kind of, patience game.
So you think the level of the dollar amount, the level of service almost has a, let me see how I'm going to word this question. Because if I'm doing makeup on YouTube, and I'm a 12-year-old doing a makeup tutorial and I've got 10 billion views, yes, there's a ton of sales, but the dollar amount of that sale is maybe like $10 or $20 or something. But like on LinkedIn, maybe you have 1,000 views, but it's the right 1,000 views and the product is $10 million. Yeah. You see, I know I'm not conveying what I'm thinking, but you see that what I'm trying to get at?
I do. And so there's this concept of what I call fans versus clients.
Yeah.
Right? So you can have fans who like your stuff, engage on your stuff, comment on your stuff, and like create this buzz about you, create this aura of attention around you, but they may never buy from you, right? Especially if it's some big service or, consulting service and stuff like that. However, because they're generating all this buzz and attention, then it could potentially bring you those clients.
Yeah.
A lot of times clients come to me not because they liked and commented on my stuff, but because I kept on popping up on their feed. And over time, they ended up direct messaging me, even though they've never engaged with my content. Say, hey, I've been watching you for the last 6 months and I like what you're doing. Can we have a chat? I want to build my brand. And so I think fans help you get to clients, and then you don't necessarily have that level of engagement with clients at the beginning because there's what I call the lurkers, right? They're just watching and assessing you. So I think we need both. Fans pay us in attention and clients pay us in money.
So the more fans you have is almost a social capital that allows clients to go, or potential clients, well, they have X amount of fans, so clearly they're doing something right. I should pay attention to them.
Yes, or at least just pause a little longer to listen.
Okay.
Right? You look at Richard Branson, right? Or, these big names, big brands, Bill Gates, right? They have tons and tons of followers and tons of attention, tons of views on media. But that doesn't necessarily translate to a sale for them, right? But over time, I follow Richard Branson on Instagram, right? Even LinkedIn. Over time, when he finally launched his, I think, Virgin Cruises or Voyages. He calls them Virgin Voyages. So then suddenly I click on it because I'm like, over time, he's developed this brand where I'm like, oh my God, everything he does is going to be innovative and creative. And so when he finally launches something, I'm clicking on it. I want to know what a Virgin cruise is like. I want to know, what kind of cool facilities they have or cool events they have. And so I feel like the collateral and attention he's created gets me to finally click and be curious.
Well, it's like the Tesla truck and Elon Musk. It's like, they did this truck and then, you could pre-order it for $100 and all of a sudden they've got a $20 million interest-free loan from people because it's...
That's right. $5 for you.
And they can get that money because it's just a deposit that's completely refundable. Yeah. But by the social buzz, all that, they literally have free marketing and they've got a loan.
Yeah.
Brian,
and that's the beauty of brand. And that's why brand, I think, is so hard to measure, right? But it's when you finally get that click or that buy, it's because of all the collateral that you've built and the attention you've gotten over time.
But going back to what you're saying about before, about how if you're selective with who you're doing business with, like clients-wise, you can almost weed out, do they get what you're trying to say? Yeah. Because, again, like if somebody wants to be a Grant Cardone, a Gary Vee, these type people, it's like that is a possibility. Yeah. But are you posting 30 times a day? Do you have 10 cameramen following you every day? Are you on all the biggest stages every day?
Yeah.
No? Well, then you may not be at that level yet. Can we get there? Possibly.
Yeah.
So I think it's that expectation.
Or look at Gary Vee, right? I'm sure you follow him.
Yeah.
I follow him, right? I'm never going to afford his marketing services, right? Like I'm never going to hire him to like brand myself or something. Yeah. However, because he's built up so much rapport with me and I respect him so much, right? And I love his advice. I'm checking out his empathy wines, right? And I'm almost willing to like buy his wine purely because I like him as a brand, right? And granted, I trust that, if he's going to put something out there, then it's worthwhile to buy. Similarly, his sneakers, right? I have no real interest I'm not a sneaker person, right? I'm not his, demographic of like, young male buying sneakers, right? But I found myself clicking on his sneakers to see what they're all about. Because in my mind, if he's going to produce that, then he put a lot of thought in it and they must be pretty cool.
And what's interesting, and I just had a thought when he brought up empathy wines, because I'm doing an event here. Well, I'm starting a new monthly mixer, and it's going to be open bar. And typically when I do an open bar event, I just go to the liquor store, buy a bunch of booze, go to Costco, buy a bunch of wine.
Yeah.
But it's like, and this is going to sound very agenda, but it is what it is. I wonder if hey, I am a fan of Gary Vee. Instead of going to Costco to get a bunch of regular wine, I'll just maybe spend a lot more money on empathy wines. But then at the event, you can document it.
Yeah.
Obviously, all you're trying to do is get his attention and maybe get a reshare and then grow your brand. Like, to me, yes, there's agenda, there's motivations, but at the same time, it's like
win-win, though.
He got the sale.
It's win-win.
Yeah, he's getting attention and the sale, so it's...
You know what I've realized along the way of entrepreneurship, and tell me if what you think. Like, I have a totally different relationship with sales nowadays. Like, I used to have this perception of it being slimy and gross and like car salesman-y and, like can't be trusted. But now that I, ask people to buy from me, right? and have these kind of conversations, I really feel like everyone is worthwhile of an ask, right? Everyone, as long as it's win-win, then why not, right?
One thing I learned getting into whatever this game is, content game, media game, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of it, is it's all about collaboration. Like in business, well, Tyler's my best friend and he's an economics guy. He would say the ultimate failure in economics is not collaborating. So the epitome or the mountain peak of economics is when everybody can collaborate.
Yeah.
But typically in business world, everybody is very competitive, obviously. But in the media world, it's if somebody likes watching you, that doesn't mean they can't also like watching me.
Yeah.
So therefore, it only makes sense that we can collaborate together and be on each other's whatever, and then hopefully share audiences.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the biggest insight that I got doing media stuff.
Yeah. And even when I was doing those job search stories, right, I was building up my, engagement with the audience of job seekers. And at the same time, I was featuring these career coaches, right? And so then their audience saw me, my audience saw them, and it became this mutually beneficial thing, right? Again, win-win, right? So same thing, exactly what you're saying. Like we get to benefit from being part of each other's audiences.
So real quick, Brian Brer has a great question on Facebook, and I'll just throw out there. He's the director of an IT recruiting with 24 experiences, and he works for a mid-sized staffing company. Would he want to focus on branding himself or the company to try to build a community through content and video?
So he's like the owner of the company, or
he works there, but he's a recruiter. He's got a lot of experience, and his question is, should he focus on self-brand or the company brand?
Got it. So self-brand, or when you post something on your personal page, that will always get more engagement than on a company page, always. So what I say is, number one, you can share content from the company page and then add your comments, but you should definitely be posting original content from your own personal page, because that's where you're going to build the engagement. You're going to get candidates to, connect with you. You're going to get potential employers that want to partner with you and have you recruit for them. So definitely put a lot more effort in your personal page. But see, you can tie it together, right? So what I've done with the company I'm supporting is on the company page, it has more, it might talk about like the core values of the company, right? But then on my own page, I tie that into things that are important to me. So one of the core values that they had was entrepreneurship. So then I tie that with, well, entrepreneurship is important to me. And, when you join us, you get to, be part of something bigger, right? You get to make a lasting change. And then I'll share little tidbits of why I joined, right? I joined because I wanted to be part of an entrepreneurial company, right? So you could tie your personal values to your company values. And then that's how you kind of merge your personal brand with the company brand.
So conversely, when it's time to say break away, how do you focus on yourself when, like, personally, like, oh, that's
tape attached to me.
It happens. Yeah.
No worries.
There's nothing wrong with tape. For like me, I've been attached to a company brand for 2.5 years, and now I'm like going out doing the self thing, and my strategy is to just do this, go at it really hard, and just so. Yeah. And I'll never say anything negative. There's nothing negative to say.
Right.
It's all a good situation, but at the same time, it's like, is there too much? Is there too little? Where's the happy medium? Like, what strategies should someone do, like myself, to, hey, everybody, I'm still here?
Yeah, it's never too much, I think. I think you find things that are in parallel. Right, I think that's our key word today.
Yeah, parallel.
Right, like you find things that are in parallel with the company. So whatever the company values in this case, or culture talks about, that are in line with yours, then you just reinforce it, right? And then you can still add your thing, right? I'm at this point where I'm still helping a lot of, I give a lot of give back to the community through job search presentations, right? But that still ties into me wanting to attract candidates, right, for the company. So you find those common things to talk about that line up with your personal brand as well as the company brand, and then becomes like a double whammy. Right?
So so to talk about the job search and to talk about the job fair that y'all throw together. your main, so do you have a main job? Like, is the main job talent acquisitions?
Yeah. I mean, that takes up, 30 hours of my week, basically. Mm-hmm.
But then the like the job fair that you do and you're promoting that, like, it seems like obviously those tie together. And you're like, if say you haven't placed anybody or you're working with somebody or you don't have a good fit, you can say, well, hey, come to this thing we're doing next month.
Potentially. Yeah. So like the job fair side, we've kind of wound down on that because, I realized, we were talking earlier that what I love more is the promotion of events, right? So now I'm actually part of two technology associations. One is Geek Meet, which does networking for IT professionals, right? And so I help them with their monthly promotion of that. And then the other one is Association of Business Technology Professionals, ABTP. So I'm in the whole world of technology, right? But that fits, right? Because the company that I'm supporting is in SAP, is in technology. So I still kind of keep it all lined up, right? So to that recruiter's question, especially, if they have a certain industry that they're supporting, you could do those things where on my personal side, I support these two technology associations. And on my professional side, I'm helping to hire technology consultants, right? So those two still tie together.
What about the promotion side? It like resonates with you. Like, what about you're like, I really like this because I know the stress of people actually showing up, at an event. Like you may have 1,000 people say they're going to go and all of a sudden there's only 22 and then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I know there's that stress there. So to me, promotion is just, it's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily enjoy it, but I also don't hate it. So do you actually enjoy it or is it just something that you're really good at?
Well, it has to be something that I'm enthusiastic about and passionate about, right? So these two organizations that I help in particular, I love the people at both of them, right? They're awesome people that have become friends of mine. And so it's not a chore to promote it, right? It's I believe in it. So I'm only going to promote things that I believe in, right? So then if there's no angst, there's no extra effort in me talking about it because I love it. I'm enthusiastic about it, right? So that's kind of where it's a no-brainer. Like,
So going into the nitty-gritty, how are you promoting it?
So, there's obviously things like Eventbrite. We did that a lot when we were doing job fairs as well.
So Eventbrite being the ticketing platform, are you using that to promote as well?
Well, the thing is people search Eventbrite a lot just for events, right? So we've had people, because Eventbrite also shows you who's viewed it, right? And so, yeah.
News to me.
Yes.
I've used Eventbrite for like 3 years.
So, if somebody's searching, in this case, job fair, DFW, then that could potentially show up or that would show up. So we've had people that were just randomly searching Eventbrite come upon our events. So that's number one. Eventbrite has been good for that. Number two, for Geek Meet, we have tons of people that are just searching on Meetup. So meetup.com is another great one.
I don't like Meetup.
It's been wonderful for our Geek Meet.
Quick tangent, and if
please.
I'm breaking your train of thought.
Go for it.
So this happened to me on Meetup. So I had the owner of the company. We had an organization that we built, but we built it under his name, just so because it was his company, whatever. Well, and I was a co-organizer. He was the organizer. He never logged in ever. But we were very active. I think we got the Meetup organization up to like 1,000 people, where every event we would put on there, and we'd also do Eventbrite, Facebook, but it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Meetup literally goes, "Oh, you're not active," so they sent an email to everybody in that group who wants to take over this group. And
really?
Some random
Meetup, the platform itself?
Dot whatever it is, com or the Meetup. And literally they didn't even like reach out to the co-organizers. They were like, well, we just sent it to everybody who wants to be in charge. because the organizer wasn't ever active, even though we're active and we're doing events and there's over 1,000 people on this thing.
I didn't know that about Meetup.
Well, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Anyway, literally some Joe Schmo took it over, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, this is our group. He's like, well, I would love to work with you guys. Work with us, guys. Yeah. Work with us. Explicit view. No, this is our group.
No.
So then
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So then I reach out to Meetup, and they're like, well, and then you could just ask them. I'm like, I did. And like, well, you could, and then they wanted us to jump through all these hoops, and being as an entrepreneur startup, I don't have time as it is. So I said, screw it.
I didn't know that.
We
haven't. I mean, we've been using it for years.
Sorry for that passionate moment of anti-Meetup.
But that's important to know, because who would have thought?
Well, because again, like,
because it's you're the organizer.
Well, I was the
as a
co-organizer. And again, the structure of it was, well, the owner of the company, we'll make him the organizer because it's his company, it's his group, whatever. But he, owners, it's the people that work the thing that actually do it. So it's like, oh, well, he's not active, so we'll just give it to anybody. I was living.
I would be too.
Because you know how hard it is to build any kind of following ever?
Yeah.
And to have 1,000 people on a Meetup?
Huh.
I was not happy.
Okay.
And
Cautionary tale.
I wish I remember that guy's name so I could blast him, but I got over it. Can you tell?
No hard feelings.
Now, what were we talking about?
Promoting events.
There we go. Eventbrite, Meetup.
Eventbrite, Meetup. Email lists, right? So both organizations have big email lists. So we do that as well. And then number 4, LinkedIn. So before every event, we have a video promotion, and then we also get all the board members to kind of engage and promote as well. So it becomes like a team effort, right? But I found those 4 have really, really helped us.
So I know how to do LinkedIn or email. Well, everybody says they know, but nobody's ever good at it. But I understand the concepts of emails, concept of Facebook, even Meetup.
Right.
Eventbrite, I kind of knew people could search it. I just didn't know people were actively doing it. LinkedIn, on the other hand, other than just sharing a post, I'm not familiar how you could use LinkedIn for promotion, for events specifically. Well,
because I worked really hard to cultivate a community of people in technology, HR, recruitment, then I was very purposeful about like, this is the audience that I serve. So then all my events tie to what could potentially be interesting for this audience. So I think once you know which industry you want to target, then I would suggest then you serve that community with the events, right? So I have technology events, or I go to HR events or marketing events, but that all ties in with my audience. And so they're the ones that would be most interested in attending.
So what about, do you use like LinkedIn groups at all?
I don't. I find they have not served well at all.
So the reason, going way back to even when we first started, before we even turned the cameras on, was we were talking about like LinkedIn, how I'm really not that active, but yet still was able to get that LinkedIn Live beta testing.
It's about who you know.
Maybe.
Who you know.
Maybe. Interesting story, tangent. Because I was a cheerleader, somebody from Kendra Scott reached out to me yesterday. Huh. You know the brand?
Yes.
And they're like,
this is Kendra Scott.
Is it?
Yeah.
So one of their reps, this is insane to me. One of their reps reached out to me because somebody else reached out to her to let them know that I know the people at the Navarro, where there's a big Netflix show going on right now. I don't know if you saw that, but it's extremely popular the last 2 weeks. And anyway, the cheerleading.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So Yeah. Anyway, so I get this random text. Hey, we want to give them all this free stuff. Anyway, they're not going to watch. We want to surprise them with all this free stuff for Valentine's Day. And we hear that you may know somebody. I was like, I'll send a text, I guess. But it was just like, what? Why are they reaching out to me?
Brand,
I guess.
Content.
Maybe I'll get Kendra Scott here. Do they have men's stuff? I don't know.
No.
No.
Save it.
That's right, ladies. Hit me up.
Ryan's available. He's got Kendra Scott jewelry.
I have access to Kendra Scott stuff, Anyway, sorry. I don't know why that came up.
We were talking about
I don't know. It just
events. Yes.
Events.
But okay.
Person you know?
So
because of LinkedIn Live.
So let me ask you, okay? So let's turn the tables a little bit, right? The types of events that you promote, who are typically the target attendees that you want to get?
So now, thank you for asking that, because in the real estate community, real estate investing community specifically, because a lot of people like to say real estate, they immediately think agents and brokers. Well, and they are on LinkedIn. Investor types, like in the single family space, typically not on, well, they may be on LinkedIn because of former life, but they're not active on LinkedIn. Multifamily commercial, yes, they are. But like the single family, not really. So the type of events I throw currently are for the real estate investing community.
Okay.
The one I'm throwing on the 20th is going to be, I know how I can get you to help me out, because Mac, he was telling me that the name Mixer doesn't really convey what I'm trying to do. So what I'm trying to do is host an event for investors from the single family side to commercial to multifamily, but have bigger players, people with money, people with deals, all come together. And I just randomly called the deal maker Mixer, and he was saying that Mixer probably isn't going to attract people with all the monies.
Yeah.
So what's a better name? Let's put those branding skills to work.
I don't have a name yet, but when you were talking about it, I thought to myself, I think what attracts people these days is educational kind of sessions. Right? So if there's an element of going somewhere to learn something or to hear from someone speak about something, I find that becomes a great attractor, because the mixing and the networking will happen anyways. But if you're there with some kind of expert talking about something related, I don't know the real estate industry much at all. So, but whatever kind of top questions or top concerns you think they have, if you have somebody there speaking about those kind of things, I think that attracts people.
So it does.
Yeah.
So the last event I used to do, the big one at the Palace Theater, there we had basically three components. You had the theater where you had those educational sessions.
Yeah.
You had like the sponsor area, bar area where people could expo out.
Yeah.
And then you had the lobby area, which was ultimately where all the bigger players would hang out and almost use it like a social hour, fraternity. I basically get to like cut a rug, maybe do a couple deals.
Yeah.
So my thought with this, the event on the 20th, is to like, okay, let's just focus on that section of it.
Yeah.
So that's the whole vision of that. But the Mixer, he macked in like the Mixer word.
I think because people still have a little bit of maybe hesitation around networking, right?
Why do you think that is?
I think people go to networking events with an agenda, and we really shouldn't. And so you go around the room, and if you have an agenda, then it kind of oozes out of you, right?
Yeah.
And then it appears almost
Sleazy,
self-serving.
slimy,
Right? And whereas if you don't go with any kind of agenda and just purely to whoever I meet, and if a great conversation sparks up, great. Then I think that's where more natural deals and natural conversations come up. Like today, right?
Yeah.
I'm finding out all kinds of stuff about you. Mr. Cheerleader. And I think that kind of organic conversation is a lot better and a lot more, deeper than I want to go to this networking event and I'm going to talk to 10 people and hopefully from those 10, I get one lead and I'm going to follow up with that lead and I'm going to call them the next day. And nobody wants that.
I'm a firm believer that those kind of expectations will ultimately leave you disappointed.
For sure.
But I do think you should have goals and not necessarily an agenda, but going to any kind of mixer type event, instead of trying to focus on meeting every single person in the room, focus on having 2 to 3 quality conversations.
Yeah.
So I am a firm believer of that. I don't think having expectations of getting a deal or finding a business partner, you can hope for that and you can game for that and goal for that. Like that's my intention of structuring this event.
Yeah.
That's the goal, and I want people to walk away with that because ultimately, if people are going to if they're going to take moments away from their family, take moments away from their own business, there needs to be some sort of potential positive outcome.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the more interactive you can make it, the better.
Yeah.
So I've been to some events where there was a LinkedIn local DFW where you get like a color coded name tag. So then in addition to the name, you can kind of start to get to feel of the industry or the maybe the interests of people in the room. Right. And similarly, if you create like a little exercise, I've been to, I really enjoyed this. It was LinkedIn Local Dallas, I think. And Katie Wallace, Katie Wallace was there. And they did an interactive session where you just have like a partner and then you share certain things about each other. Right. And they pump out the questions. They'll ask the questions and then we would just answer them to each other. So I think when you have that kind of almost like you give people like a little nudge, give them a little opener to talk about, then that helps them to give it just a little bit of structure to kind of start the conversation and get it going. I like things like that.
I've been at one, this is years ago, where there was like 300 people in the room. And what they did was they just had literally like a line of people here, a line of people here, and they had 30 seconds. And then they just shift.
Oh, yeah. It's like speed dating.
Yeah. But they did a speed networking session.
Yeah.
But by doing that, everybody had a chance to get another card.
Love those.
Another just do.
Love those.
But like, to me, that just seems like you're just begging for the flu. I'm just saying.
But then I feel like that gives you the opener. So then you can say, that's a person I want to have a deeper conversation with.
Have a Sharpie to write on their business card. Oh, follow up with this person. Like, 30 seconds, star, this guy's good. This gal's good. Let me talk to them later.
You know what it is, though? I think it's also, I find that, at least for me, if I get a good vibe with somebody, even if it might be like, maybe something that we're totally unrelated, right? I'll have like a conversation with them and we never know where it'll end up, right? There's been conversations I've had on like airplanes. I'll remember this one lady, I sat next to her and she designed Coke bottles. Like, and we got into a whole conversation about plastic and how every curve of a bottle has an intentional purpose. And I know that sounds so random, but I never forgot it. Like,
that makes,
because I loved her energy. I loved her vibe, that she was passionate about bottles. Blew my mind.
But what's interesting, it's so funny because Friday I had Natalie Gonzalez and Yanni Yeager, who are college students in marketing, and one of the questions I had was, what's the first experience you had with media? And Yanni was saying a Coke can, and at the time it didn't really. I was like, huh. But she was like, I just really love the artistic nature of a Coke can. And then if you think about it, that is art. I mean, Andy Warhol's whole thing of painting the Campbell soup cans was because that was art.
Yeah.
Somebody had to artistically design that.
Yeah.
So the Coke bottle thing makes complete sense to me now. I would never have thought of it if Yana hadn't said something, but
I find those are for me, the most memorable conversations sometimes at a networking event.
Yeah.
Is I learned something new and I connected with another human being that I would have never, ever met in my day-to-day life.
So
ever.
Do you ever have like real goals or agendas at going to events? Because I know you say, hey, don't have them. But I mean, you got to have a little bit. Otherwise, why are you going? Are you just hoping to have a couple of good conversations?
You know what's funny? So I am 45 and I felt like in my 20s and my 30s, everything had to have a goal. Everything had to have a endpoint, and then I was going to work my way to that endpoint and then set a new goal and then work my way to that.
Right.
And that worked great for me in my 20s and 30s. And in my 40s, maybe because I was reinventing myself or just kind of searching for meaning, as hokey as that sound, right? That I decided to let the universe tell me. Again, I know how hokey that sounds. And trust me, I'm a former engineer. I'm very I can be very fact-based and very numerical-based, right? I can stare at Excel sheets all day if I wanted to. But I've found that the more I just put out good energy and good vibes and good quality and content that I love, I'm going to let life bring stuff to me.
What has it brought to you lately?
Oh my, it brought me this corporate client. It brought me you. Oh. It brought me all kinds of LinkedIn connections. I mean, I've met people that I've never, ever, ever have met in my regular life. And it's purely from putting out content. I've met clients in an elevator. I've met clients in the audience of a event. I've met it's just so random. And so I just kind of trust it now.
What's the weirdest, or not weirdest, but most entertaining after the fact interaction you ever had? Like with somebody who, like, you're on an elevator and I'm like, oh my God, Fanny. And you're like, hi, who are you? And they're like, oh, I consume your content. I'm a fan. Mm-hmm. Like, have you ever had those moments? And what's the most entertaining?
Oh, gosh. Well, speaking of the elevator, I met one of my clients at going up in the elevator to a LinkedIn Local Dallas event, Craig Wasselchak. So shout out to him. And he, at the time, owned a company that sold postage meters. I didn't even know there's a whole business around postage meters, but it makes sense. And so we got into a random conversation, and then I started seeing his content on LinkedIn. He saw mine, and then I ended up helping him with a variety of things. So that was, and then from him, I met another guy, Don Williams, who has since become kind of like my business mentor, business coach. And he, not only does he speak on customer service, he also manages a call center and for Fortune 500 companies. So then again, never would have met him in my life, but because I talked to some random person in an elevator, I got to meet him, and he's been a big influence on my life as well. And I've helped him with his LinkedIn content, and he's become a client. And so it's very random, just like that.
So when you're helping somebody, and then just tie it all back, going back to LinkedIn and cultivating a message, and when you're starting out, you're just putting out there to find your voice per se. At what point do you start like trimming the fat and actually going, okay, let's determine what message you're trying to push and start focusing on that? And then once you do that, like how do you do all that? Does that make sense?
I think you have to really, really focus on who your target client is, right? Like, so who does your target client look like? Their demographic, their Where do they consume information? How do they like to consume information? So I've realized over time that maybe just because I grew up in corporate or, had those years in corporate that, I can just identify with them, right? So I've found that more experienced professionals I connect better with. And again, because my interests are HR, recruitment, and technology, then I kind of double down on those areas. And those are the people that I connect most with. And those are the people when I pump out events and content, I have them in my head. I'm literally like picturing that person in my head, right? So like for you, picturing that real estate investor in your head and like asking yourself, what are their 10 burning questions, right? So let's go there, right? Like your target real estate investor, right? What do you think is their top 3 burning questions in their head?
Where can I find more deals?
Mm-hmm.
Where can I find more leads?
Mm-hmm.
Where can I find more money?
Okay. So then, brilliant. Now, take each one of those questions, right? Where can I find more deals? Okay. So what type of content can you put out? Where do they find more deals?
The answer to every real estate question is it depends.
Okay.
So they can either go out and going back, kind of structuring with the leads, they can go out and find their own deals.
Mm-hmm.
They can find them through driving for dollars. They can go out and doing their own marketing efforts, or they can JV or buy from somebody else.
Okay.
So typically when it's more deals, they're kind of past that marketing phase and they just want to let somebody else do all that work and they just want to consume.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine, Ryan Carlson, he actually made a comment. He was on the show a week ago, but he made a comment about a week and a half ago on Facebook and he got flack because people didn't know who he was.
Mm.
Well, a lot of people do, but he's like, I'm tired of buying. I just want to buy 50. I want to buy 50 at a time because it's just, this is annoying me having to do one after the other. And somebody's like, well, show me how much money you have, proof funds. And it's like, don't worry about me. But that's why people are like, they're trying to puff their chest. Like, who are you to say that you can buy 50? They got defensive that he was like, I just want to buy 50. Tying that back into the question of, that's people just want more deals because they like typically in real estate, you need 3 things. You need experience, you need time, and you need money. Those are the 3 things that you need to put a deal together. But also you need the deal itself. So
like right there. Okay. Can I go there with you?
Yeah.
So this is what I do.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Is this free?
This is all free.
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure it's pro bono,
Right there, right? Like my head is spinning already.
Good.
Look at this. So you take that and that becomes your content strategy, right? So we talked about the 3 questions, right? Number 1 was, where do I find more deals? Where do I find more leads? And the last one was money. Where do I find the money?
More money, yeah.
Okay. So that becomes 3 big topics. They're very big, right? So from there, within the deals, you quoted 3 things, right? It was
time,
money, and experience.
Experience, yeah.
Right?
And then the time would be the effort to structure it and everything.
So then that becomes, each of those can probably branch out into something.
Right.
Right? So you see, that's my engineer in me.
Yeah.
Everything. But then that's content. So one piece of content is the 3 things that, the top 3 questions that I get most asked about. That's one post. And then from there, secondly, number 1, I'm going to address where to find more deals. Well, it's about time, money, and experience. And then you go into that, right? Mm-hmm. And from there, that becomes another, like maybe 3 posts for time, 3 posts for money, 3 posts for experience. And then you giving like a 1 or 2 minute advice around that, right? So suddenly you took something that was a burning question, something that is top of mind for people, and you're breaking it down into components and into answers that you provide. Do a lot of people know this already? Maybe, but they're not sharing it in this kind of format.
But force feeding it almost.
Yeah. So then that's how you build up brand. That's how you build up expertise. That's how you build up thought leadership, is because you're packaging all the information that are a jumble of thoughts for people and putting it into this micro content and all these mini topics.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, they're like, well, Ryan knows what he's talking about.
And then how
Let's
do you
go deeper?
And then the delivery mechanism, is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? Is it,
where do they live?
Tie together.
Where do you think most of them live?
Not on LinkedIn.
Okay. Then do it on whatever platform they live on.
Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah.
And Instagram.
Yeah.
But
start there.
But then again, it depends, because the level, like these 3 questions could be for single family. It could be for multifamily apartment buildings, or it could be commercial.
Okay. So, but where do you want to go first? You have to prioritize you too, right? Which one do you love the most or gets you most excited?
Personally, the multifamily commercial lane, because that's where the big money is.
That's fine. Yeah. Then you start there.
Because it goes back to that question of, if you go in it with agenda, everybody can smell it. It's like, my agenda is what, Tommy? It's that money.
That's right. $5 for you.
Thank you for paying attention.
I thought you were asking me a question.
I don't know.
I think for, small companies like us, right? Mm-hmm. You got to go with what you're most passionate about first.
Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't even then spend time on single family. I would just go straight into multifamily and answer those.
So what's interesting about that, so I know a couple guys out of Arizona, AZ Flip guys, BP and Chris, and they had a fairly popular Facebook Live community, a podcast that every week they'd go in talking about single family. Mm-hmm. Well, they've since migrated into more multifamily, but their audience is still single family. So they were. I haven't talked to them lately, but the last time I talked to them, they were considering just killing that channel and starting over. Yeah. So the reason I bring it up is because the audience they have is already in this other mindset. So the questions they're getting is on this, but they're trying to go over here. So when the question I'm getting out of that is, when you are, so say my audience is single family, but I want to go more of this other space. Do you cut bait and start over, or do you just start doing new content and the people that like you will stick with you, and if they don't like you, they fall off?
Yeah. At least I would, if I've changed, or if, you've changed, because you never know. Some of them could invite a friend and you be perfectly honest and transparent. Hey, I know you've been following me for the longest time around single family, but my interests have now moved to multifamily. I would love for you to stay around. But the next 6 months of video content or series will be around multifamily. But feel free to invite your friends that are interested in that to join. And I understand my viewership may drop, but this is where my passion is now, right? And let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel as well. When I heard that they were considering doing that, I was like, guys, what are you doing? Because even to have 500 people following you, that's 500. That's a starting place. Starting from zero is hard.
It is. It is, because you've built up trust. You've built up relationships with those however many followers already.
Yeah.
Right? No, I would not. I would not start from scratch.
Well,
I would just have an open conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer as well. Mm-hmm. As far as you and I know you've said that you just kind of go with the wind and see where it goes.
Okay.
Where are your goals and aspirations?
I still have plans though. Yes. Yes.
Do you only get dressed and take showers and get ready for work if you know what, I think the moon told me to go to work today?
No, and I don't want to create that that impression either.
I'm being absurd for comedic effort.
No, I mean, I let my content drive me, right? So I have events lined up for, all the way to August already. And those are events that I present at. And those are events where I share about LinkedIn branding, about personal branding and growing your brand. And so from there, a lot of that generates its own leads for me. And whether it's someone in the audience or somebody heard about it and then reaches out to me. So that on the personal side is kind of my lead generation. And before every event, I promote it. And I usually use old clips from other presentations as my promotion vehicle. So that's where like I can repurpose my content. I can reuse things. So like anything that you say here, I mean, we talked about a whole bunch of real estate stuff as well, can be potential content to promote something, right? So that helps me build my business on that side. And then on the corporate side, that one I have very clear plans. We have goals of hiring specific roles. We have goals of content every week. And so all those things still have targets and, ROIs to be measured against. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of let the universe come to me. I mean, a lot of that is more networking events, right?
You're like, let's be clear. That's only for networking events.
I have very concrete plans. Yeah. I just, don't have those. I must have 5 leads coming out of this networking event.
Yeah.
That's just not how. And that works for some people, and that's great. It just doesn't work for me.
So it's funny because somebody I met in this past year, she was from New York, and like trying to do networking events in Texas using New York style, like she was like, everybody hates me. I'm like, why do they hate you? They're like, well, because I meet them and the first thing I do is I pull up my phone and look at their LinkedIn, see who they're connected to, and I want to see if they can introduce me. I'm like, well, that's probably where you're messing up. They don't want to. You got to know the people before they're going to introduce you to somebody. You can't.
It's very transactional.
Yeah. Up in North, up in New York. It's like here, it's like I'll help you, but we got to be buddies. Like it doesn't have to be like I give you a pin, you give me a pin. It could be I give you a pin, and maybe a year and a half from now you give me a boat. I don't know, but I think the transactional up there is like, what can you do for me today, type of thing.
And granted, I really think so. I really got into. Have you done your Strengths Finder?
I think so. Like, what do you mean by that?
There's the like Gallup Strengths Finder assessment.
Is that like a personality thing?
Yeah,
like a DISC test.
Kind of. It's kind of like DISC, and so Joanna Wiesinger, shout out to Joanna. She really helped me kind of find my strengths as well, right? So during this whole growth stage that I feel like I'm on, I feel like I'm in the second phase of my life. I really kind of did, those kind of assessments with her. And from there, I realized like my number one strength was connectedness. So I really enjoy seeing connections between people, connections between events, all that, right? But there's a whole range of like 34 strengths. And you got to really kind of see what type of person you're dealing with, right? There's strengths around, like there's analyzers, there's people that are learners, they're maximizers, arrangers. So there's all these like strengths that people have or they naturally gravitate to. So because I'm a people person, then I find attract other people person, right? And so then my transactions with those people are more about relationships and trust. And then over time, it turns into business, right? But if you're talking to somebody that's more like, chop, chop, let's go. Let's get this done. Let's get this transaction done. Then they could enjoy, okay, let's pull out our phones and see where our mutual connections are and let's make a deal or let's, set up phone calls. So I think it just depends on who you're talking to and who you want to do business with.
I've never done the strengths test that you're talking about, but I have done like a personality thing, and I was
what is yours?
A promoter. But just hearing the connectedness Like I would say that I'm probably that as well, just because immediately I'm like, if I meet somebody and I'm like, oh, you should meet so-and-so, you should meet so-and-so. And then they all should work together. Like in even interviews, like, I'm always striving to see who I can introduce to somebody to maybe something comes out of that. And maybe, and it's not, I would say it's 88% altruism, but 12%, there's probably an agenda there. It's like, well, maybe
I'm
there's
okay
a
with
finder's
people with
fee.
agenda. Yeah.
Hey, if I could introduce two cool people to do some cool things, even if the only agenda is, by the way, I made that intro. So I think that's kind of cool. Granted, if it'd be a lot cooler if there's a money amount, but whatever.
Right. But see, then in a way, maybe that's why you reached out to talk to me and I said yes. Like I didn't hesitate. Like, even though we barely kind of knew each other, I know that sounds weird, but like, because I think you get to a certain point where you just trust your gut and you just trust that I think I'm going to gel with that person and I think I want to do business with that person. Right.
Yes. So sorry. Go ahead.
No. Whereas so something that I scored very low on in that assessment was competition, right? I hate anything to do with competition and like competitiveness, but some people really thrive on that, right? Like I think Gary Vee is a very competitive person, right? But that's okay too, because then they're going to attract people like that, and then those people might be about the numbers, about okay, we hit this mark, now we got to hit this mark, now we got to hit that mark, but then they'll find their tribe. And then they'll gel together and they can do business together, right? It's just that that's not me and that's not how the people that I do business with.
So my content strategy right now, for better or for worse, is I'm going hard on YouTube, hard on Facebook, hard on LinkedIn. I know some people would say, well, you need to pick a lane. But, I'm picking all 3 lanes because I want to see which one. I want to grow in all of them. Yeah. For me, YouTube is the hardest and slowest to go, but if it can get legs, it's the most revenue generating, not because of AdSense, but because of all the affiliates and et cetera, whatever. That being said, my agenda with you was, I know you have, you're more into the LinkedIn world. So therefore, if I'm not, well, obviously I need to get people that are in my current network of influence, because they're big on Facebook, bring them in there to help the Facebook side. I need to get the LinkedIn people to help boost the LinkedIn side. And then obviously if I get some YouTube people, but also just cool people. Yeah. So Alana Sarabia, do you know her? She's one of the hosts of Good Morning Texas. Yeah. So she was in here. Yeah. Like hardly, I mean, she's got a following, but she's not tremendously active, but her following is like live broadcast TV. Yeah. So my thing is like looking at this game of influence as a very holistic, okay, bring in this person, and then piecemeal it all. But my thought process has always been the collaboration side. Yeah. Like you coming in hopefully helps me as far as the LinkedIn world, but also maybe it helps you in YouTube or like Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just slowly growing my YouTube channel. But I've taken, my job search stories, I have about 50 of them. I've taken all those and now they are on YouTube, right? So then I'm able to kind of transfer my LinkedIn content and then repurpose them into YouTube content.
Do you use TubeBuddy?
I have not yet. No, I'm using vidIQ.
I dabbled with vidIQ.
Yeah.
But I started with I had TubeBuddy with the previous company, and then I also had vidIQ for my personal, and I never took the time to learn vidIQ.
And I'm just like novice beginner.
To me, TubeBuddy just seems to be a little bit easier to work.
Is it? I have to check it out. You know where you should go? Video Marketing World.
I did. I went there last year.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Well, they're coming back around April.
I'm waiting for the cheap tickets.
Hit up Scott Simpson.
Well,
Scott
last
Simpson,
year,
shout out to you.
I would have already bought tickets this year, but last year it was like I think it was like $300.
Yeah,
but it was buy one get one. So I took Tommy. So, but like, and then the emails that I'm seeing, I'm sure it will. Yeah. But the emails I'm getting are like $500, $600 for a ticket. I'm like, where's my buy one get one?
So I want to tell you something around LinkedIn, right? And I share this a lot. Like, I would say there's 4 types of content on LinkedIn, right? Number 1 is the educational stuff, right? The advice giving stuff, right? So kind of what we talked about here around, multifamily and then deals, leads, money, all that kind of stuff. I think those are the educational posts. And I think for sure those you should niche yourself around your interests and where you want to attract the clients, right? Number 2, right, is what I call the informational posts, where you inform people. And those I think is perfect for you around promoting events. You're informing people, hey, Tuesday, come to this event at whatever place, these people will be there. It's a great event for investors and, I don't know, venture capitalists or whatever your target is, right? So then you have a series of posts that are educating on what you know. And then you have a series of posts that are informing around your events. The third category is inspiring, right? So then the inspiring posts I find are great for someone may have no interest in real estate. Someone may have no interest in investing, right? But here's Ryan talking about the values of connection, around the values of building community, right? And sharing information. So then you talk about your values, right? And as a promoter, what does it mean to you to be a promoter, right? Why do you promote? So more kind of like a softer side of you, more around your values. So then you attract an audience that purely just wants to hang out with you because you're Ryan, right? Even though you have no, like for instance, me, right? Like we got to know each other now, and I still don't really have that much interest in real estate investment.
I thought you were about to say, I still don't have that much interest in you. And that would have been the most, I think if you said that,
Where's the sound clip?
Tommy would have loved you forever. He'd have been like, I love that woman. That is the most savage moment of all time. I literally thought, yes, I thought you were about to drop that. And I would have been so proud and happy and crushed at the same time.
No, but like that third part is your connection to people. People just want to follow you because they like you or feel like they can trust you, right? And that's where you share your triumphs, your challenges, your lessons learned, and more kind of personal yet still professional side, right? And then the fourth category is entertainment. I mean, maybe you're just posting things of cool event venues, right? So it's more entertaining, and you're like, check out this space I'm at. Look at this cool sculpture. Look at that piece of art. And it's not really any kind of purpose, but people just want to like kind of live vicariously through your events, maybe.
Because
right?
that could be also lifestyle as well.
Yeah, right? So suddenly you have these 4 categories, and you can put your content into each of them, and they all serve different purposes, but they all create a very well-rounded brand around you.
How important is being a well-rounded brand?
Then you attract more, right? And if you only do one and not the other, right, then because I imagine maybe I might not be interested in real estate for the next 2 years, but if I'm a connection of yours and a follow of yours simply because I like your values, maybe 2 years later, I don't know, I come into some big pot of money.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I might be interested in real estate. Who do I know that is in real estate investment? Ryan.
So,
by the way, my husband's Ryan. So that word rolls out of my mouth. But like, seriously, that's what you got to think of.
Interesting enough, I've never thought about the whole well-roundedness of a brand. Like, to me, it was just pump out as much as possible, do a lot of education, do a lot of how-tos, do some entertainment, but never really strategizing. So working with my personal, working with other brands, thinking in terms of, okay, what have we mapped out educational? How have we mapped out being informative, promotional, inspirational, and entertainment value?
Yeah.
And really looking at it like that, like.
Then it's holistic.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Did you learn anything from me other than me being a cheerleader? She's like, not at all.
I learned about Meetup. I got to go back and make sure I'm active more on Meetup.
Or at least the organizer, yeah.
And I still want to see a cheerleading move.
Oh, gosh.
Come on, just do one. Just...
I'll drop a video. I'll send you a link.
Boo.
Boo. No, that helped. But that's so weird because, like, I still haven't seen the Netflix thing, but what? Go ahead.
Okay, here's an idea for you. Okay, and I'm always about how to marry every part of yourself into one thing, right? So the fact that you're a natural promoter, the fact that you're a former cheerleader, you should bring some cheerleading concepts or techniques and use them in your promotion. And I don't know what that might look like, but like I'll give Lila Smith an example, right? Because she came from theater and now she's a communication expert, right? Lila Smith. But she brought a lot of concepts of theater into her Say Things Better brand now, right? She'll say, in theater, we have this concept of, I don't know, whatever, right? I don't know theater terms, but that's what she did. She brought out theater terms and then she said, well, that when you apply it to communications, it looks like this, right? So let's play with this real quick. Okay. Do we have time?
I have time.
So what is something you learned from cheerleading? A concept or a lesson?
Women are crazy? I'm just kidding.
That could potentially be applied to the business world.
Teamwork. Because like that's a good one because like because I was literally having this conversation yesterday, the day before, because somebody was asking, well, who leads the cheers? Well, sometimes basically anybody, like because the way the teams I were on is anybody could just start something and then you just immediately jump on.
Yeah.
And it's almost like being able to lead and follow at the same time.
And that applies to business. Obviously.
Look at
right?
you.
So that's something where I tell people like, that's something very unique to Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you were a former cheerleader, right? You might as well embrace it, right? But you can tie that to a post around teamwork. Hey, I used to be a former cheerleader. One of the things that was crucial to cheerleading was teamwork. You know, and then you can talk around trust. You're throwing somebody into the air and hoping they catch you, right? Or I guess you're the catcher, right? Yeah. There's a whole business analogy around trust, right? There's a whole business analogy around teamwork. But same thing, like how Lila kind of took her theater knowledge and applied it to her communication strategies. You can very similarly pull out random things from cheerleading and tie it into teamwork, tie it into trust, building relationships. And then that is a unique brand.
So, quick story, just because, you know how the brain works, it just kicks you random memories. Well, when you're talking about catching somebody, I remember one time at North Texas, because I cheer both at Navarro and North Texas. I don't know if this is even legal anymore, but you used to be able to like throw people like over other people, like they start over here 20 feet away and they throw over a pyramid and you catch. Well, we were doing that and the music stopped. And yet, so everybody stops while somebody was in the air.
Oh my God.
So the other person that was supposed to help me catch this human in the air wasn't there because they didn't come over. So I'm literally like, you just see this girl, I forgot who it was, but like the deer in the headlight scared. Because you can imagine being 30 feet in the air, flying over something, and then you're just like, oh God. And I just remember she went to like literally just a bear hug, and I just grabbed her. But anyway, going back to the unique brand though, I was also in the Marines. So should I talk about that too?
Yes.
Because I think that's as far as like what makes me unique is the fact that I've done so many random unique things like rugby, Marines, cheerleading.
And I think
theater.
when we weave those personal stories and when we weave those little nuggets of ourselves into a broader theme of teamwork or dedication or commitment, right? Then people feel connected to you, right? Maybe a Marine starts listening to you that would have never connected with you, or a former cheerleader, that's a CEO somewhere, it suddenly said, well, I connected with that story, right? And so I go through these exercises with people to say, like, you could have 1,000 HR professionals, you could have 1,000 event planners, you could have 1,000 whatever thing, but you're going to be the event planner or the promoter that was, he's the promoter that was an ex-Marine, or he was the promoter that gives these random but funny but entertaining cheerleading analogies.
I have to correct you. There's no such thing as an ex-Marine.
Okay.
There's only former
Point
Marines.
taken. Point taken.
I only bring that up because if I didn't, I would get in trouble.
No, the
comment section would be on fire.
Yes.
So,
but that's how you become memorable.
Speaking of uniqueness, though, what is your uniqueness?
So,
other than having a husband with an awesome name.
Yes. So, I mean, I weave in stories of my immigrant past, right? I immigrated to Canada with my parents, or they brought me over when I was 6 from China. So I didn't even speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I share stories around, for those of you that are scared to be on video or don't think you have something of value to say, I couldn't even speak English. Like, I had to take years of English as a second language classes. And so I think whatever we put our mind to, we should definitely go for, right? So I weave in those stories of my past. I weave in stories of being an engineer. I weave in stories of connectedness, and so I look at my travel, right? I love to travel. So I've done posts where, perfect example, I was in Hong Kong, and when I was doing job search stories, I was curious about what are the top industries in each country. And so I had a video of the nightlife, like the night skyline in Hong Kong, because they have this great light show and all that. And I talked about the top 5 industries in Hong Kong are this, and this. And then I just kind of opened it up to questions as, has anyone else, worked in Hong Kong, and what's your experience like working there? And I got tons of feedback and engagement. And that's what I would fall into the entertaining category, right? So that's still kind of tied back a bit into my brand because I was talking about industries and jobs. But at the same time, it was very much me because I love travel, and I was sharing a travel story too.
So because immigration, et cetera, I don't know what I'm just saying. How many languages do you speak?
Oh, I speak broken Chinese now. So if anything, So
you've completely acclimated being American
in a
where
way.
You only speak English?
In a way. I mean, when I'm with my mom or, when I lived in Singapore for a while, and so I speak Chinese with an English accent.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame, but it is what it is.
I ask because, and it's funny to me, only because...
Oh, and I speak French.
There you go.
Because I grew up in Canada, and French is the other national language.
So I used to live in Dubai. I used to work over there. And
wow.
Everybody over there, other than Americans and British, everyone spoke 3 to 6 languages. and an American, we're like, we speak English.
Right.
So when I hear that you're from like you have an immigration, you're an immigrant, I'm like immediately like, I'm so jealous because I know you speak multiple languages. You know.
Yeah. But see, now it's like, oh, now I want to hear a Dubai story.
No, you don't. I'm just kidding. There's no time for Dubai.
I know.
But Fanny, though, like, because I don't. What is that? Your real name? Is that an abbreviation of a name?
So,
because that Fanny doesn't sound like native Chinese.
No. So I was born with the Chinese name Fong Yi.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we immigrated to Canada, my parents didn't think people would remember that or be able to kind of say that easily. And so they're like, Fong Yi. And my dad's, they translated his name to Danny. So then I somehow became Fanny.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know what it meant. So they just assume it's something that, like, you know, would work well and be easy to remember. And here I am. And my surname, my maiden name was actually Yip, Y-I-P. So, but then when I got married, I married a guy, Irish guy and American, but Irish lineage. So then I became Fanny Dunagan.
Uh-huh.
So for a long time when I went for interviews, I'm pretty sure they expected some like lady with a, I don't know, like red hair, Irish or something like that. And I show up, right? But yeah.
Do you ever, I guess it couldn't be regret because it wasn't your decision. Do you ever wish that maybe you had a more, like your original name, or you're like, I don't know any better, Fanny's my name?
Yeah, it's just kind of, it is who I am now.
Right.
Like I can't think of anything else now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's me.
Are your parents ever mad at you that you have broken Chinese?
No. I mean, if anything, I'm probably mad at myself just because, you know, I wish I kind of continued with it. And I tried to get my kids on it. Like I sent them to Chinese school and
that's one thing
they barely learned anything.
I've never been one. I'm all very pro-American, but living overseas, that's one thing I hated about being an American is that, and I know it has nothing to do, but it's just my own personal whatever, but not speaking multiple languages.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, these people speak 5, they speak 6.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and even like French, right? Like it's funny because then French ends up sounding, a lot of similar words are also like in Spanish and so Latin words come, so I don't know all the linguistic history kind of stuff, but so then, you know, when we were in Italy even, I saw like similar words to French words, so then I kind of could make out what that might mean, and so it's fascinating. But I don't have that kind of like, you know, some people pick up languages easily. I don't think I have that.
I do have a language story though, because I did pick up very, very, very basic conversational Arabic. And then I was in New York on vacation with a couple of friends, and we're in the taxi, and I'm trying to throw some, you know,
impressing him.
I was trying to impress a girl, and the taxi driver's like, "What is this?" He's like, "My friend, that is not Arabic."
My friend.
My friend. No, that's not Arabic. And I was like, I just look like an idiot, which is not hard.
Yeah.
So as far as I don't want to keep you all day, but what is one thing that you wish people would know more about you?
Oh gosh. I guess that I'm on a journey like everyone else, and
wherever the crystals take you.
Juggling, I think, you know, the wearing many hats of, you know, motherhood, wife, entrepreneur, corporate professional. I think if anything, if I could just, I'm not really answering the question, but if I can like leave this conversation with something, is that I think there should be more content creators, especially female content creators. And because I think our stories are powerful, and I think our stories can really connect to others. And I feel like men don't hesitate sometimes to just, I'm generalizing, yes, but typically, like, I think, you know, across the board, I definitely still see more male content creators than female. And if anything, like I want when they turn on LinkedIn to see more female voices and more female people sharing. And I want to encourage other women to do that. Sorry, it didn't really answer your question.
There's no sorry.
But I think that's kind of where my mind's been at. Yeah.
What celebrity would play you in a movie of your life?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. For the longest time, I was at this mixer, and they said, go around the room and introduce yourself as your favorite actress. And I would say Michelle Pfeiffer. Mm-hmm. I mean, she doesn't look like me. We don't look like each other. But
she doesn't look like her like she used to either.
Yeah. But for the longest time, I liked her. Michelle Yeoh. She was in Crouching Tiger. Mm-hmm. And I like her. I think I like strong women that are at the same time that can have like a quiet strength about them, if I may.
So that question is actually, it's a trick question because how you answer determines how you see yourself. Mm-hmm. So Michelle Yeoh, I would see her as incredibly powerful in strength and quiet.
Yeah. So I kind of see myself like that.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
As far as anybody getting a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you if they want to do
business?
LinkedIn.
Fanny Dunagan.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody watching, listening. This is the Ryan Harper podcast. I don't really know how to do an outro, so Tommy, outro.
Thank you.
I'm on to